We are now live.
I can tell. I told me. I think so.
This version of Chatting with Dr. Mike, is that what you're going to call it?
I was going to ask you later what we're
Is
doing.
brought to you by Wisps. They are whimsically delicious. They are also quite ketogenic, and as long as you don't have any IgG sensitivities, could stave off the topic that we're talking about today.
Ah, nice, almost transition.
You like that?
I could have actually finished that for us, but I didn't. So, what we're going to talk about today is, with nutrition, generally we think of weight loss. I mean, that's the most common thing we think of when we hear nutrition. But there's a bigger concept, at least in my mind, to get back to our roots a little bit. We're going to talk about brain loss, literally how your brain can shrink, cause some problems, and the big one we're talking about today is Alzheimer's disease or dementia, because it's been proven many times there's a direct lifestyle and nutritional connection to preventing it and slowing down effects from this considered incurable disease.
Absolutely. I mean, unlike getting a brain trauma, getting your head bumped, this is something that is a slower onset. You're not going to get Alzheimer's typically overnight. This is something that's long, slow, and steady. And your lifestyle has been shown really to play a part in this, from what we'll get into today of the nutrition aspect to getting off the couch and actually doing things, actually working your brain. I mean, think of your brain like a muscle. There's ways to make it work far better.
Yeah, and so we're going to get into it a lot right now. In short, a lot of people know Alzheimer's is, you lose your memory. Like, that's the basic form of it. There can get to be all kinds of symptom side effects from where people start remembering like their life 30 years ago, thinking that right now really just the brain is not healthy.
Right.
And we think this is a neurological disease, where what really happens is that parts of the brain, the little neurons, the brain cells themselves, start dying, and then we end up getting this plaquing where those nerve cells were, called amyloid plaquing. The reason why this is a problem is it's just scar tissue in the brain. When that happens, our brain doesn't work as well. Brain cells die, they can no longer communicate with other brain cells, so they're not getting their exercise, so to speak, and those brain cells get weaker.
Think about it this way, if you're having trouble figuring this out here. You get a scar. With that scar, you need to get signals through that scar from one side or the other. So let's say Dr. Mike's head is the scar. I need to get my finger here to the other side of his head. I keep bonking into it, and it's not going anywhere. When you are born, that scar is simply not there, and your finger can go straight through. It just came to me.
Trying so not to make the Pillsbury Doughboy noise. Yeah. Anyway, good analogy. Sorry for interrupting that one. Yeah, it's pretty much the neurons don't talk anymore, so then we get symptoms of not remembering things, not knowing who we are, where we are. And, it's actually a big fear of mine outside of dying of stroke, which is also kind of similar to what this is. Mini strokes in the brain is losing my memory, not being completely with it. Like, that actually scares the crap out of me. So thankfully, there's a lot of things we can do about it. A lot of people with disease talk about, well, is it genetic? Is it something that, my parents have it, well, I have it? Straight answer is everything shows no, it's not genetic. If your parents have it, though, you are more likely to get it yourself. That's not saying it's genetic. It's that as families, we have similar lifestyles. I mean, like the lifestyle you have right now, Jim, with your, with your family, your kids are very likely to pick up your habits, which is why you're so hell-bent on making sure you give them good habits. It's not genetic. In fact, if we just pick up what our parents do, what our family do, what people around us do. So if your parents had bad, healthy lifestyle that made them predisposed to something like Alzheimer's, then if you're doing the same thing, you're going to be just as predisposed.
Absolutely. A family that eats together has disease together. I mean, it's true. People think whether it's Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, they say it's diabetes. It runs in the family. You're right. When you are eating pasta for dinner every single night with the breads, when you are having your desserts every single day, you're having your cakes, you're having your ice creams, typically the entire family sits together, and typically if parents are overweight, kids end up being overweight. It's pretty rare unless the kids, like myself, kind of go off the deep end and do some things differently, like not having pasta or breads or the ice creams, and tweak things like that delicious key lime pie that Shantae made, which had zero sugar, flavored stevia. It was organic, it was nutritious. In every way, it was good for you and a delicious treat, and that's a lot different than picking up the thing of Breyers. Nothing against Breyers, but it's not going to do you any good. And with all the excess sugar, you do get more predisposition to having that, as you say, the beta amyloid plaques up in the brain.
because we'll get in a little bit more different causes, but Alzheimer's has been coined, not officially, but it's been talked as diabetes type 3 because there's a direct correlation. It's not even correlated. It really will cause it down the road if it gets bad enough. So let's talk about a few different causes, because every cause is preventable. So that's a big thing to talk about. The one that's probably the hardest to prevent is head trauma. I mean, to a certain extent, we can avoid head trauma.
Right.
But, one, accidents happen, two, sports happen. Which we don't need to go into the history of head trauma that's in this room right now. But
we've both been bonked in the head quite a few times.
But the big thing is post-concussion syndrome has been shown to cause Alzheimer's and other type of dementia. Main reason, you hit your head. It could have been 30 years ago. Again, this is a slow onset disease. Usually symptoms you don't see until it's kind of gotten progressed to where it's no longer preventable, it's slightly controllable at best.
Happens with a lot of football players. It's not just the MTBIs that occur, it's also signs of dementia later in life. Football players typically, since they have their bells rung on a daily basis, head-to-head contact, coup, counter coup with the brain. That's where the brain sloshes forward, hits backwards. You're going to eventually develop, again, more scar tissue in the areas, decreased blood flow, and these plaques that are going to lead to dementia. And unfortunately, athletes don't remember the prime of their career anymore at that point.
And we've talked a lot about concussions before, but when you hit your head, you get a little bit of inflammation over the lining of your brain. It's called neuro-inflammation. Okay, you don't really know it's there for the most part, but it's in there for years, it starts doing damage. One of the damage that inflammation does in the body is break down and destroy tissue, like brain cells. Those are something I really want to keep. So it's how, when you get a head trauma, is trying to make sure you attack it right away, so to speak, into making it therapeutic. Get rid of brain inflammation so you're less likely to get Alzheimer's, other neurological conditions down the road, especially if you're an athlete that plays like football or kickboxing, something where you're going to get hit in the head.
Absolutely.
So now we just talked about it being a neurological disorder. Let's talk about how it really appears to be more of a vascular issue. So things that really dictate when you're going to get or show that you might be down the road of getting dementia-type symptoms is if you're having diabetic-type symptoms, things that you look for there, hypertension, or high blood pressure, having high cholesterol, having high triglyceride levels. These are all signs that the damage is happening. Just like how you can get atherosclerosis in all of your arteries that can go ahead cause cardiovascular disease and stroke, it can also happen in the brain. And what dementia or Alzheimer's really is a bunch of little mini strokes that you might not notice any symptoms happening. So it's just going in, causing a couple of neurons or brain cells to die, and does this on a repetitive basis. There's actually a thing called acute Alzheimer's, which I can argue it's not actually Alzheimer's, it's acute dementia. It's called aneurysms. We get a bunch of these little mini strokes really repetitively. And a lot of people misdiagnose saying, oh, you've had Alzheimer's, when really it was just a very rapid onset of something similar. That's just the quick version of it, and it can happen either rapidly in that case or slowly. But again, this is a vascular issue, which is also why even if you do everything correctly, we do have some mild neuro decline if you're not really on your stuff as we age. We have about, I think it's a quart of blood goes through our brain every minute. And once we hit around 55 to 65 years old, that starts to shrink by about 15 to 20% over a span of 3 to 15 years, really depending on how healthy you are, what your lifestyle's like. And when you have less blood flow to the brain, that's less oxygen. You don't give as much oxygen, brain cells die. So this is the preventative part of it, is make sure your brain's healthy, which we'll get to a lot of how that happens in a little bit. A lot of it is know the risk factors. If you're having high blood pressure, if you're pre-diabetic, just another reason to get healthy about it is keep your brain alive. Nothing on that one? Done. Keep your brain alive. So we're talking a little bit about it's being called or coined type 3 diabetes. It's because it's a lot of the physiology, what happens to the brain is very similar to what happens to diabetic in terms of how you control it and the damage that happens from it. If you're diabetic, type 2 specifically, you're already 15 or 20 times more likely to get Alzheimer's or a type of dementia. So instantly, you're messing with danger with that. So just another reason to get your blood sugar levels and your health under control.
Can I just interject a moment here?
Please.
I'm hearing also a lot that, I was tired, I had headaches, I need sugar, so I must have low sugar levels. This is a sign of an unhealthy individual. When you are feeling that you need to have sugar, it's not something that you need. You do not need forms of exogenous sugar in order to make you feel better. You may be having hormone fluctuations. There could be decreased blood flow causing a headache in the area. The blood pressure may be good to the core of your body, but not to your brain in that case. And that's where people start to think, hey, I need sugar. So they start putting sugar in their coffee. They start having other forms of sugar, whatever they can do to get sugar into them. They start to feel better. But it's not really giving them the true so-called cure, so-called treatment that they're looking for. Instead, it's actually going to end up reducing blood flow to the brain even greater, and thus a slow death of your brain cells.
And the way it directly slows down the blood flow is, again, sugar is the primary cause of plaquing in blood vessels, atherosclerosis. So that needing sugar, you're just feeding both your diabetes and the chance of getting some sort of brain issue down the road. And being insulin resistant, which is the key characteristic of diabetes, actually increases that amyloid plaquing we talked about earlier, that plaques in the brain and causes the cells to die. Being diabetic increases the rate that you're getting that plaque to drop down in the brain. So again, it's directly increasing your cause with this. So other things you want to avoid nutrition-wise is, again, keep the inflammation under control. Have your your anti-inflammatory foods. Figure out what foods are sensitive to you, causing a bunch of inflammation, and get rid of them so you can be healthy and remember how healthy you are. Another big thing is heavy metals, specifically copper, which even in multivitamins, if you don't need something like copper, it's just going to start storing a little bit in your system. Heavy metal toxicity. Again, it's going to be years. It's not talking about you just lick a bunch of copper stones. I mean, this is just over time having it set up in your body. And again, that can directly cause to plaquing issues as well.
Want to talk about tinfoil?
Sure.
Aluminum as well?
Go right ahead.
Aluminum's been found to be another one. It's in a lot of personal care products, such as deodorant. People bake oftentimes, or wrap their food, wrap their fish, which should be beneficial for you, but instead you're wrapping aluminum around it and thus seeping some of those heavy metals into your food source, directly putting it underneath your arms or on your neck or somewhere on your body where it's absorbing it. Over time, the metal levels build up, beta amyloid plaques begin, and you start to forget what you're doing.
And again, it's not like it's just one time using aluminum. I don't recommend really using aluminum, but it's doing it repetitively, especially if it's something fatty, which, again, everyone knows we're big fans of fat here. But if you wrap anything in aluminum foil, the fat actually helps pull it out a little bit more. So even, like, oh, how about we just use vegetables? I mean, okay, if you have cheese or butter or oil or anything like vegetables, you're really absorbing it as well. But again, it's still sitting there. It just might not be as much. So yeah, aluminum foil directly causes these problems as well. And then another big one is beta oxidation, which really comes down to fat burn, right? So having excess cholesterol that, again, we're talking mostly your bad cholesterol, your LDLs, or sugar that turns into cholesterol. When it starts oxidizing, it causes, I mean, how many times we talked about this? Free radicals, causing oxidation damage, breaking down cellular walls. And so the big thing on this is I've had some like, oh, so we shouldn't eat fat. And I try my best not to show the very disappointed look in my face. Really, no, it's really, if you're having a high-fat diet, you should be having a lot of antioxidants as well, meaning eat your vegetables, which is the biggest problem I've noticed, or one of the big problems I noticed with people who are on a high-fat diet, you know, the keto lifestyle, a lot of people go by, it's not an all-meat diet. It should still be more vegetables than not, but you have the vegetables, all the flavonoids, pigments, antioxidants, try to help offset, just having a bunch of fat, because we need it when we break it down. It's supposed to happen, but make sure you're taking care of the whole body.
And you can prepare your vegetables with meat. One of the greatest things in the world is Brussels sprouts cooked in bacon fat. Chop that little bit of bacon up and mix it up. Let's see, 12,000 or 1,200 calorie meal. Sometimes, so you're going to break that up, but it's delicious, and you're getting your nutrients in there as well.
I've done it with cauliflower before, trying to make a scrambled egg-like consistency. It worked. It could have worked better, but it could have worked a lot worse. It was delicious. It just looked kind of like runny oatmeal. Yeah. But again, cauliflower and bacon grease. That was my...
On the Healthy Happy Hour, Shantae had posted the cauliflower mac and cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Delicious. So check that out on the Healthy Happy Hour section of our private group, which is currently opened up to the general public.
While we're talking about Shantae, our specialists in cognitive behavior and neurofeedback. Let's go on about sleep, because it's another huge issue that happens with Alzheimer's and just cognition in general. Is you need to sleep. I mean, that's really the short of it. I mean, I guess we'll go into more details. You need to get, what's the exact number? 7.6 hours?
7.6 hours.
Sleep?
Nice.
It's because I actually slept, so I remember it. Yeah. Dream Chaser saved my life last night. But again, sleeping is very important. The reason why in this case it's important is that we have, I'll throw a fancy word out there because I know you love it, this lymphatic system. It's our detoxification system in our brain. But really, is when we're in a deep REM sleep, our brain kind of expands and contracts, not nearly that much, it's really barely, but it does so to kind of pump fluid and everything around. And this is the big point where our brain detoxifies itself. Most of our body has the liver to do that. The brain doesn't use the liver nearly as much, uses its own little pump system to clear out things like tau proteins and amyloid.
Think of your brain as a nuclear power plant. All that toxic waste has to go somewhere. If a nuclear power plant did not discard the toxic waste in barrels buried deep within the earth, there would be a meltdown. Same thing goes with your brain. It's pumping out all this energy throughout the day to keep your body going, to keep your mind functioning, to keep your everything literally that you do. It's your body's central processing unit. So it needs a way to get all this toxic waste out, and that's the lymphatic system. And if you don't sleep, it builds up until you die and have that nuclear meltdown.
There's reasons why you don't think clearly if you don't sleep well. I mean, this is actually directly why.
Absolutely.
And more with sleep problems is something I had to deal with when I was younger, shift work. We were working like third shift, or they call it the graveyard shift. It's actually a very appropriate title because people who work overnights, even if you're regular on your sleep patterns working at nights, you're still a higher rate for heart disease, stroke, diabetes, dementia, and cancer. So, I mean, it's literally the graveyard shift. You're hurting yourself just by working those late hours. So we were meant to. The whole circadian rhythms were meant to be active with the sun, quiet down in the dark. So when we end up not sleeping well, even if we're not sleeping the normal times that our bodies are meant to, this is going to throw off our circadian rhythm, so we're not going to get our deep sleep, even if we're exhausted, which goes back to the, even if you're sleeping your 7.6 hours, it's not good enough to sleep. I know you track this a lot with your little witch voodoo on your wrist.
I've had the witch voodoo on the wrist, and I've tracked it a while, yes, absolutely, witch voodoo.
Touch a little bit on, we've already said a little bit about high fat, high carb diet, but let's get into a little bit of, before everyone talked about keto, which really just got exploded the last couple of years, it's really nothing new. It originally was called the swank diet, which I think was first pushed in the 80s, and this is meant for neurological conditions. It's what it was specifically designed for. High fat diet help the brain because every brain cell or nerve cell in your body has this little fatty tissue called the myelin sheath that goes over it, which means we need fat. Again, healthy fat. If you're not healthy, you're like deep fried mayonnaise or anything. You like that?
I do like that. Deep fried mayonnaise. Doesn't even work.
I'm not going to try to figure that one out. People have done deep fried ice cream. I've seen deep fried butter on a stick.
Deep fried ice cream, I mean, we're getting off, but deep fried ice cream in a Mexican restaurant is kind of like rolled in cornflakes. You know?
We can roll mayonnaise in cornflakes.
You could probably take a shell, put the ice cream in there, wrap that up, then coat it, dunk it for literally a flash second.
These are not suggestions, by the way.
These are terrible ideas. Terrible ideas
at all. That's what happens when you rant. So, again, swank or keto, a high-fat diet is really good for brain health. Again, as long as you're doing correctly, having your antioxidants, eat your vegetables, guys. But then the other diet that's been shown to, lifestyle that's been shown to correlate with the lowest amount of brain damage and dementia is Mediterranean lifestyle, which, if you want to tear that apart, it's still basically a high-fat, high-vegetable diet.
And the funny part about Mediterranean diet, when you really break it down to, if you trace the entire Mediterranean Sea, there's different diets from all the way around. So they really pick certain areas to make sure it is very high in fatty fish, vegetables, polyphenols, bioflavonoids. Really,
again, it's healthy, high-fat diet.
Correct. And these areas, people also are very physically active as well.
What do you know? I didn't plan on touching too much on exercise. I mean, you could ramble on about how that helps with, other than right afterwards, the anti-inflammatory and helping blood flow. Nitric oxide, which we'll get into that very momentarily.
It's found in the blue zones. People in Sardinia, for instance, it's typical of 5 miles a day that they end up walking by tending their herd.
Okay.
And they actually pack with them a thing of wine, a satchel of wine, cheese, and some breads.
I mean, I remember growing up working on the farms because, yes, I'm Amish country. I remember seeing farmers literally they would just drink olive oil in the morning. They have their 6,000 calorie breakfast.
That
like
keeps
10.
you going.
Yeah, I mean, literally
all
just
day
drinking
long.
oil.
And they're not going to have that crash either from having the carbs at breakfast, the oatmeals, the cream of wheats, the pancakes. They're literally having fat, keeping their body in a state of ketosis, burning that slow burn all day until they're
done.
done. Yeah.
I mean, I still in that same approach. Like when I'm training for a competition, a lot of times before I do these major hit workouts and WODs, I'll take a shot of olive oil. I can sometimes season it so I still feel fancy, and everyone still thinks it's gross. Which I mean, to each their own, but it's worked out well for me. Gross. I'd get you to do it in a heartbeat if I asked you to.
Yeah. Before,
we'll season
I
it.
say it's gross.
Fair enough. I almost didn't even talk about this one because we've beaten this one. Like, pick any random animal or person.
So somebody who was going to see this, so we need.
So let's talk a little bit on fasting. Really, because fasting's been shown to help with every symptom associated with diabetes. Again, don't go fasting, especially if you have a health condition without the supervision of a competent medical professional. But again, fasting helps with so many things in terms of medical conditions. In this case, I really want to hit, I guess, 3 of them. One is just fasting lowers your insulin resistance levels over time. Which again, you want to have lower insulin resistance because you actually want insulin to work. You can pull in the nutrients into your cells so you actually have energy and you don't deal with high blood sugar levels that causes all kinds of issues that several of us are aware of. The 2 bigger ones I want to point out, because we talked about this I think last overall, is I am with acronyms, BDNF, bone-derived neurotrophic factor. So what this is, it's another little protein half hormone that gets released when we're practicing not eating. Not for long, just about 12 to 14 hours. So I'll go with 16. It starts releasing this bone-derived neurotrophic factor, which really what it does is it helps give your neurons a little bit of a boost. It helps, one, protect them from stressors and beta oxidation. It's also going to help them reproduce the neurons that are in our hippocampus. It's our main memory center of the brain. Yes, do you remember this part?
I don't remember.
Hippocampus? Oh, you don't remember that one? It's Greek for seahorse, because that's the shape of it.
Those look like seahorse.
I've never actually looked at it, but I'm just taking Greek's word for it.
Cut that out and look at it.
So it does help with all brain cells, but there's the largest jump as far as I've been able to find on the hippocampus. So again, for memory, which is a big complaint here. And the other big one is autophagy.
Autophagy?
I was actually going to ask you to pronounce this because it's different every time you say it.
It's different from what I say. It's different from all the other experts that say it. No 2 people kind of agree. And it doesn't really matter. We all know what we're talking about.
So what it is
understand the word.
Yeah, your cells
Hello,
die
hello,
in
potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
I've never heard someone say tomato.
You haven't heard say tomato? Okay.
No, that's all I got. So autophagy, what is it? It's when cells decide to kill themselves, basically. So when we're not, the more scientific version of that is when we're not eating, our body still wants to get energy from somewhere. So, it pulls from our fat stores, from our glycogen stores. It also pulls from dead tissues in our body. And this is where fasting is actually shown to help pull down benign cancers, a few malignant cancers, depending, where it starts breaking down the cancer cells. It also breaks down scar tissue. And what do you know? Plaquing in the brain. So fasting regularly, again, just that 16-hour intermittent fasting, will start breaking down those plaques to give better neurons, better health, and less cognitive decline, hopefully incline as we go. Because I'd like to get smarter and better memory as I age, really try to fend it off as much as possible. Then, just another reason why intermittent fasting is great. There is increases that BDNF once you hit around 30 to 36 hours of fasting. Again, I'm not going to recommend anyone do that if you're really curious, talk to us. Again, we're professionals on this. We've all done way over 30 hours before. So if you're curious, we'll give you more information, help you guys glide through that. Then a couple other little just preventative things. Like, okay, what can I do other than live healthier lifestyle? Which is frustrating as it is. Everyone wants a quick fix for the most part. So there is none, but there are things that you can do, other things you do regularly, things you can take. Some people just feel better taking something, especially if it's going to help out. So we hear a lot about turmeric, again, however you want to pronounce that one. And turmeric plus this nice little cheap herb called saffron These two together, they slow inflammation. Again, they reduce the amyloid plaquing and different types of plaque in the brain. And
the hack on make sure you absorb it.
Yes,
You want to take a black pepper or piperine, and if you can get an essential oil to have it mixed in, it'll absorb far better. Otherwise, just taking pure turmeric by itself or just taking the shaker and pouring it in, not really going to do you much good.
I think it's less than 2% absorption without pepper in it.
Right. And if you're taking all the rest of the turmeric and multiplying that to say you get 100%, you're going to be taking so much, you're going to have so much gastric distress, you're just going to feel nasty. So little piperine pepper, little essential oil, and that'll go a long way.
And when people ask, like, oh, is it actually effective? Which also I try to get frustrated with people ask because I'm recommending it anyway. But to prove it, there's been a couple of things where they put it hand-to-hand against your prime medications for Alzheimer's. Time for me to butcher more things, called donepezil or Aricept and Memantine or Namenda. These are normal anti-aging and anti-dementia drugs. Using turmeric and saffron have been proven to be just as effective in mild, moderate, and severe dementia than these drugs without side effects. So, I mean, at the very least, if you want something to do, even if you're already having symptoms, and it's something that's going to help join you with the medications you're doing. It'll be just as effective, no side effects. So
obviously, consult your medical provider who you have received these drugs from, and see what they say. If you don't like what they say, find another doctor.
Perfect. And another thing to go to is I want to hit a little bit on L-citrulline. Because, so L-citrulline is one of the metabolites or a mineral, vitamin, etc., that turns into nitric oxide, which is good stuff. At least I want it.
It's a great thing in a pre-workout when you're exercising. It's a great thing.
Pump factor, get the blood flow,
yep.
Which is why it helps with dementia. Because again, the whole problem with this is to realize, again, this is a vascular disorder. So we want to have, with nitric oxide, the blood vessels are going to dilate, more blood can come pumping through your veins and arteries. When it does that, atherosclerosis has a lot harder time plaques sticking to those arteries. First off, it helps clear some of it.
Typically 2 to 3 grams a day is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for natural sources, spinach is one of the best sources I know of. I don't know if you have another trick for it, but eat a crap ton of spinach.
I take it in white powder form. Okay. That's my other source.
So there's a big supplement forms that I have to talk about on that one. And other small things. Even it's a healthy lifestyle. You know, if you live a healthy lifestyle, you're going to help prevent a lot of diseases that go on through life. You know, not just diabetes and Alzheimer's. So just normal things that will help with this is inversion therapy. Hang upside down for a little bit. It directly causes blood flow to come down here. It's something I enjoy doing, just hanging out for a couple of minutes. We've walked in on each other doing that before. Do handstands for a few minutes.
Walk in on you upside down.
Next. So,
I'm so embarrassed.
Other things, reading. Keep your mind active. I mean, reading is the easiest one to me.
And I was just joking around last night with one of the guys, some team members. He let me borrow a book, Lone Survivor. And a group of Navy SEALs. Have you read it?
Yeah, actually.
Now I'm going to be reading it. And Mark Wahlberg, there's a movie on it. The Murph workout from CrossFit is based on, or from one of the guys that unfortunately did not make it back. But there's a movie on it. I've been going back and forth. Am I going to read this book, or am I just going to write and watch the movie?
So how far the movie did you get, and how far the book have you got?
Still debating whether... I'm on chapter 2. But in all reality, as Dr. Mike here is saying, it will do me personally far greater good to read the book for my brain, as opposed to making sure that we, see, if you do the movie, the brain's not going to work as well as opposed to the book. Easy as that.
And yeah, just other health things is regular exercise, which we touched upon a little bit, is keep yourself healthy. If you're not sure how to do that, that's why there's people such as us, the Functionised, here to help you out, tell you what's better, not better, etc., etc., etc. So hopefully, I mean, I think we just threw out a crap ton of information, but if there's any more things you guys are curious about, always let us know. We'll talk about it.
If you have questions, comments, post them below. If you have watched this, ask you to repost it, tag it, take a screenshot, tag it on your Facebook, tag it on your Instagram, and we'll start following you. We'd love to see what you're doing each and every day, and be sure to join us on our next live broadcast, which is Healthy Happy Hour, coming up this Tuesday night, live on both Facebook and Instagram. We have some very fun, interesting topics coming up. If you are a single guy or a single girl who has never been married, send me to support@functionised.com. And interested in being in our discussion group. We're going to talk about relationships, biohacking, dating, and different perspectives if you're married, been divorced, or single, and we should have a great time on Healthy Happy Hour with that. Also going to be talking about 5G technology and electromagnetic frequency. It's a big one. Even just what's going on right near and the blasts coming out at us of the electromagnetic frequency is a big deal. And we're doing everything we can here to earth and ground at Functionized as well in our own homes. And we'll be telling you how to do that as well so you can think, perform, act, and feel better. Anything else?
Just time to say goodbye.
Thank you for being with us. And have a freaking phenomenal weekend and live Functionized.
See you guys soon.